Okay, so good morning, everyone. Welcome to my podcast, Living in My Shadow. I'm Sandra Wallace, the OCD Anxiety and Depression Coach, and today I have the privilege and honor to have Barbie Wharton. Am I pronouncing that right? Barbie Wharton.
Yeah, it is. That's correct. Yeah.
Thank you. All the way from Vancouver, BC. I was just telling her that she's my first client, my first guest on my podcast that is from the same country as me. So I'm honored to have her be part of my podcast today. And Barbie, just to tell you a little bit about her, she's an author, speaker, and Bell's palsy advocate known for her infectious passion and continuous resilience. She leads a community called Bell's Palsy Talk with Barbie on Facebook and Instagram, where she encourages her followers and those affected by facial paralysis to come together. The focus on self-care while learning their true purpose in a safe and inclusive space. She is passionate about making people feel like they belong and that their voice matters. Barbie is also a successful entrepreneur in Vancouver, BC, Canada, enjoys watching her two teenage sons play lacrosse with her husband, Trevor, and their puppy, Cherry. We have so many opportunities in life if we choose to notice them and trust that the universe will always support us as long as we show up. And that's her quote. You can find more information on Barbie as we get through the conversation. She will provide you some links and options on how you can connect and discuss things further with her. So thank you, Barbie. With that, I would just want to welcome you to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to it. We've been chatting for quite a while back and forth, getting it organized. I'm really excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So I want to start out maybe just with, that was really eye-catching for me when I read your bio and it said that you are known for your infectious passion and continuous resilience. Resilience is a big part in what we do throughout our lifespan. But I'd like to maybe start closer to the beginning and talk a bit about your history with Bell's palsy and how everything kind of unfolded, if that would be a starting place.
Yeah. So Bell's palsy, I was about 7 years ago. I had, two young kids, 5 and 7, getting them ready to go to school. Woke up one morning and my face was kind of weird. Mm-hmm. And I got Bell's palsy on the left side of my face. And it actually felt like that was the side that was puffy. I thought I had a sinus infection. So, fast forward, got to the doctor and, they said they have Bell's palsy. So I did get the medication, not as much as I needed. Now looking back, having learned more about it, almost 10 years later, I definitely needed more medication than they gave me. But yeah, woke up with Bell's palsy. So it's a sudden onset, which means that within 48 hours, you have completely paralyzed one side of your face. And about 2 or 3 years ago during COVID, I started Bell's Palsy Talk, and just to open the conversation, with other people who had experienced Bell's palsy. And one of the very, very common themes that I find is when people come down with Bell's palsy is that they're not using their voice, that they are either in a relationship or a job or a situation in their life where they are putting everybody else first, not sticking up for themselves, not honoring their own opinions, values, et cetera, et cetera. And each, situation, of course, is slightly different, but there's very common threads that move through that as I've met more and more people in similar situations.
Okay. Thank you for that. And can you just maybe talk a little bit about how, like you said, it can just come out of the blue. Is there any other symptoms other than what you described? Other than
well, no, Bell's palsy is sudden onset paralysis in your face. It is from a virus, and typically when you're in high stress or your immune system is very, very run down. So it attacks the seventh, I'm pretty sure it's the 7th cranial nerve right here in your face. So it'll attack this nerve, and then the nerves in your face become paralyzed. Some people will, after 6 to 12 weeks, go back completely normal and everything's totally fine. You won't even notice that they had anything. And then others end up with synkinesis, it's called. So that's residual damage and effect to your face. So you'll notice, like, when I'm speaking, that my mouth isn't perfectly symmetrical anymore here, and my eye gets a little bit active here. So I have residual effects from the facial paralysis that happened. Some people have more residual damage than others. But as you can imagine, obviously, when you have something that happens to your face, you're forward facing in the world, it's very, there's a lot of levels of kind of trauma that happens with that, which is what I talk a lot about with people.
Yeah, both physically and mentally, emotionally, it's
Exactly.
a huge
Yeah.
impact. Well, I just want to say you look beautiful, and without you pointing that out, I wouldn't have noticed. Honestly, you
Thank
you
you.
look great.
It is really important, and I do encourage people with anything that kind of happens to them is to get the physical therapy. I mean, I have spent some time, especially being on camera so often, that I, have learned how to hold my face in a certain way or do things or whatever. And so, when people do ask me about that, I do suggest, you practice and spend some time in front of the camera, especially now, after COVID, we find ourselves on Zoom videos and appointments way more, even if it's just with your doctor or your girlfriend or something like that. So I do encourage people, when they're affected by something, that you kind of just spend some time.
Yeah, and that's great. And I'm glad that you're in the camera and you're advocating on behalf of so many people that probably feel that their self-esteem has been impacted quite significantly, and they're not able to do a lot of the things in their mind, but seeing you do it and lead by example is amazing.
Yeah, you froze out there for a little bit. I don't know if that's your internet connection or mine, but I do really enjoy speaking and bringing awareness of Bell's palsy. There is a real need for awareness around Bell's palsy itself, both for people getting the care that they need when it is onset, because it is very important that you get care right away, like within 24 hours. So it is really important that we talk about it.
Yeah, and as I said, in case it did get missed with the internet connection, is that there's a lot of people where their self-esteem is lacking, or they have this feeling that they can't be in front of other people, and you doing that and leading by example is you're a great advocate for others.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so let me just ask you then a little bit about the perfection. You mentioned perfection is not a thing. Your voice is important and you matter. You talked a little bit about it, but do you want to elaborate on that?
Well, especially when Bell's palsy happened to me, I was really much in an area in my life. And I think that as women and mothers, especially, not saying if you're not a mother, you don't go through this, but I think that it's very common for especially young mothers, that you're doing everything for everyone else. All you're doing is putting all your energy into what other people need. And that is, now looking back, a big part of the stress that was happening in my life at the time is, my whole self was kind of wrapped around what other people needed or wanted, as opposed to myself. And we go through life being like, oh, I'm gonna, have the perfect parties and be the, the perfect mom and the perfect wife and the perfect friend. And it's not a thing. You can't sustain any of that. And you can try for a while, but it won't last. And I think that, as we go through life and get more experience and talk to younger people, women, mothers, and just in general, that is very important to kind of voice too, is to go a little bit easier on ourselves, because there is no point in trying to do it all. You're not going to be able to do it all at once for very long. And if you don't take those breaks and take care of your body will do it for you, and it will not be at a very convenient time.
Right.
So.
Yeah, great advice for all, whether you're even single or not having to. Everybody we put a lot of additional pressure on ourselves, right, to do things in such a way. So is this breaking up a little bit again, Barb?
Yeah, so you're breaking up a little bit, but
I'm gonna
that's
go
okay.
I'm gonna go into I'm just gonna go into the house instead because
Sure.
I want to make sure that my internet and that we give you the ultimate. Oh my, I will connect again. So the other question I have then, uh, pardon me, is let's talk about some of the ways that you do get your message across. What are you involved in now, currently, or maybe we should say in the last year or so? What have you been up to in that regard?
So I have taken on a new job as being a real estate assistant. So I have been having a little bit less time with Bell's Palsy Talk, unfortunately, but getting used to a new job has taken some time there. I'm really enjoying it. But Bell's Palsy Talk, I do really focus on. We also did a book collaborative. I did with a group of people I was very fortunate to be able to participate in. It was led by Amy Samek, and it's called The Hunt for My Smile. And it was a book collaborative that she put together of 20 authors and to tell their stories. So it's kind of like Chicken Soup for the Soul, where each author has one chapter. And it was a wonderful experience that she put together there. So that was wonderful. And you can get that book on Amazon. And I have the link on my Instagram and website, etc. So we'll chat about that at barbiewharton.com and just Barbie Wharton on Instagram if anybody wants to check it out there. And I'm also working on an event with a partner. Her name's Andrea, and we're doing it's called the Soul Care Summit, and it's going to be in Vancouver on September 30th. And that is, for women to come together and have a day where they really truly focus on themselves and self-care, learn about self-care, learn about their emotional health and how to be there for themselves. And I'm very excited to be involved with that as well.
Good, great. And on the topic of self-care, because it means different things to different people, what would three tips you would give for self-care to people listening today?
Well, self-care to me, I've been learning in the past decade, of course, when we're younger, we kind of think, self-care is, I get a pedicure, I go get a massage once in a while. And while all those things are really nice to do, self-care to me is really honoring and learning first what your voice is, what your opinion, what matters to you, what are things that make you kind of rejuvenated in life. And those are the things in the past, probably about 5 or 6 years that I've been learning about myself. I'm 43 now. I turned 40 during COVID and had a really big upheaval in my life. I used to run dance competitions, large scale dance competitions with my mom and my sister, and I really enjoyed it. And that was my plan. And we ended up making the very hard decision to close the company during COVID. And so I was really stuck in this in-between place of my plan that I thought I knew where my life was going and I had it all mapped out, was, essentially taken away from me. COVID, took away a lot of things from a lot of people. And I think that from a universe point of view, I do really believe that it is for the best and everything happens for a reason. But it's just very hard for us when we're in that middle kind of ground in transition, when we have no control over things and, not knowing what's next. Very hard for me. So it was very tough period in my life.
For sure. Yes. And self-care, I think, is a daily thing because we can get caught up in everything that we're doing and going through the motions. And then the next thing you know, it's the end of the day and we haven't practiced anything.
Yeah.
It could be
at the end of the day or the week or the year, and you realize that you forgot yourself back there somewhere. And it is really important to make sure that we take care of ourselves, our mental health, particularly. For me, I really have come around to journaling, and getting all that out is very important form of self-care, because if we carry around any emotions inside, they will manifest into, disease or ailments of some kind eventually. You don't get rid of it.
That's great. I like the idea of journaling. And when I'm working with clients and doing speaking events, I always mention different ways that you can practice self-care. Like there's always, and everybody's different, what they feel they're drawn to. That could be meditation, the grounding exercises. Journaling is a good one. And I know when I was first diagnosed with OCD and anxiety, I would journal every day, and I would put a cloud, or if I had a bad day, or rain or thunder or lightning bolts, if I noticed something that I wasn't doing well. And then if I had a really good day, I'd put a sunshine. That way, when you're going through your journals, you can pick up on it quite quickly. I have clients now that are in their 30s and 40s, and I suggested to them, you can even use stickers, like kids, you know how when we were going through school, you get a sticker, and we always longed for that sunshine sticker or that turkey sticker. And
Star.
so when they share with me their journal, they're covered in stickers that they bought from the dollar store. And I think it's so cute because we can bring our childlike behaviors back in and make ourselves feel good and celebrate the wins, the smallest of wins, because when we're
Absolutely.
going through difficult times, sometimes it's hard to see a win. What we would consider a win. So journaling is helpful in referring back to that for sure.
And I do like, that suggestion as well of the smaller wins. I'm taking golf lessons, and she was talking about, instead of, you're at the driving range and you get a bucket of 40 balls. She's like, don't dump them all out. Take 6 and say, okay, of these 6 balls, I'm going to try to get air on 2.
Yeah.
Or whatever your goal is. Because then it's exactly what you're saying. Then you say, oh, I did
Yeah.
the whole 40 out, and then having no way of keeping track or feeling a small win. And I do think that is an excellent point, where we want to create tiny ways, even if it's super, super tiny. Some days maybe getting out of bed and having a shower is a win for someone.
Yeah.
That you really, maybe you get a sticker for that or whatever.
Yeah, for sure. Or a reward. You get a manicure or pedicure
Something
at the end of the month. This is my sitting area where I do most of my one-on-one coaching and my podcast. And what I started doing is setting an alarm for like 3.5 hours into my day, setting an alarm to go out for 20 minutes and walk with my dog in the field and then come back. Because otherwise, my husband puts in 12-hour days at work. He leaves here in the morning. I'm sitting exactly here, and 12 hours later, I watch him come
still there,
and I'm still here.
Yeah.
So I have to practice what I promote to my clients, and I'm sure you understand that, the self-care piece. So is there anything that I didn't mention that you want to mention about our during our podcast today that you feel is important?
No, that's wonderful. I really do promote self-care, but for people with facial paralysis or not, the lessons that I've learned from the experience with facial paralysis, I have a lot of followers who don't even have facial paralysis, because I think that it's very important in life for us to share our stories. My goal and passion, I spent a lot of time in my life feeling like I was very alone, and nobody really understood kind of what I was going through, both in adolescence and in adulthood. And so I'm very passionate about making people feel like they belong, and making, people feel like, hey, you know what? Like, somebody else feels that way. Because it's really sucks to go through life when you feel like you're alone, and it's hard to be brave that way. And so for me, using my voice and speaking out and encouraging others to use their voice, I have people come on to Bell's Palsy Talk and tell their story, and it's very empowering just to use your voice in that way. And that makes me very excited to make people feel like they belong, and their voice matters. Get that out and into the world.
Yeah. And even if you can help one person, I always say, if I can go through and teach someone one thing that can change their life going forward, then that makes the difference for us, right? Yeah. So before we go, I just want to say, if there was a billboard in Vancouver on the freeway, and you had all rights to that billboard, what would the words on that billboard say to the world?
I
And I think you're frozen
Much
there.
about the
Sorry, Barb.
plan.
There you are.
Was that,
Okay, go
I'm
ahead.
back.
Yeah.
What I would say for the billboard is just stop worrying so much about the plan. We
Mm,
spend a lot of our time focusing on controlling what's next, what's my next goal, what's my next career move. And then something will come in from left field, and smack you upside of the head, or in my case, the face.
mm,
And while it is very important to work towards your goals and work hard,
mm.
you cannot control the outcome at all times. So I think that if we just move towards joy and enjoying the journey, and try not to worry so much about controlling the outcome and the plan, then we can be a lot happier in life.
Nice. I like that, joy and enjoy. I like that. I've never put those two words together. I'm going to remember that going forward. So thank you. Before we go, Barbie, can you just let people know again how they can reach you, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So most of my speaking is done on Instagram at Bell's Palsy Talk. And so that's BELLS Palsy Talk. And then also everything you can find barbiewharton.com and everything I have there. And then I also encourage everybody to check out the Soul Care Summit. So it's soulcaresummit.ca. It is a live event in Vancouver. So of course, anybody who's around in Vancouver, we'd love to see you there. But also too, there's a lot of messaging and information there on self-care that we're building out as well. So that's soulcaresummit.ca.
Care Summit. And can we get that literature now on that website?
Yeah, we're just building out the event,
Okay.
mostly so you can learn about the speakers there, and just information about self-care and soul care and things like that.
Awesome. Okay, once again, thank you. And thank you to the audience for tuning in to Living in My Shadow podcast, and visit our website at www.theocdcoach.com for this episode, which will be up and airing probably within the next 48 hours, and other interesting podcasts. So thanks again, Barb. And thank you
So
for
much.
your time, everyone. And be sure to visit us and ask us any questions that you may have regarding this episode or any others. I'll meet you there.